a lady by the name of Daryl Lynn O'Connell laid in her bed next to her husband, who was soundly sleeping, and the entire right side of her body was just racked in pain. It had started some 90 days earlier with a bout of the flu, a really bad bout of flu, and it lasted a long time. She was completely bedridden for nearly a week. And just as she began to recover from this really bad bout of the flu, she started getting this pain in her side. And she didn't know what it was, but it was getting progressively worse. And instead of just being an occasional shooting pain, it started being more constant and more severe. And she went to the doctor, and she was poked and prodded and MRI'd and scanned and ultrasounded over and over and over, and the doctors could not find anything wrong with her. But this pain was so excruciating, she knew that something was wrong. Adding to this was a stress that she had. She had lost her mother when she was only 24 years old. Her mom was Anita, and Anita had been a strong, vibrant woman, and she passed away from ALS in an extremely rapid case. One day she was as healthy as could be, and the next day she was slurring her words and was losing strength and coordination. Within a very short period of time, she was in a wheelchair, and a short time after that, Anita passed away. And Daryl Lynn was afraid of that for her own children. She had two beautiful children. Her son was 15, her daughter was 8. And she thought of what it would be for them to go through their life with no mother. And that was a burden to her too. So as she laid there, she said just a quiet little prayer, and she prayed to her mom, and she says, "Mom, I need some kind of sign. Please help me. Give me a sign to know that everything is going to be okay." And with that simple little prayer, it gave her enough peace of mind to finally fall asleep. The next day, she had scheduled yet another test scan. This time they were going to be looking at her gallbladder. She was able to do that. She was going to go by herself. Her husband had been so good about going to all of the doctor's appointments and everything with her, but there were so many of them. He was taking so much time off work, he couldn't take every time off, and this one she wouldn't need a ride home or anything, so she went by herself. And she did. She thought once again of her mom and was just wishing she could have that, some kind of sign. She completed the exam. While it was going on, she tried getting a little information out of the technician. You know, they see a lot of scans. Does everything look okay? Well, I can't really say that, ma'am. You'll have to talk to your doctor. She knew that was coming. So on her way home, she was driving down the road, and she noticed a sign she hadn't seen that morning on her way there, and garage sale. Well, her thing was flea markets and garage sales and that kind of stuff, and car almost turned itself right in. And there was a man, and there were a series of tables, and so she browsed for a little bit, and then her eye fell upon a ceramic bunny and it was a big googly-eyed, floppy-eared bunny. And she thought, that is so much like Mom. That is my mom. And so she asked, well, how much for the ceramic bunny? And he said, oh, it's $1. So she paid, and she took the ceramic bunny. It was only going to be a few weeks until Easter, and she thought, that'll go great on the mantle. And when I see it, I'll think of Mom. And she started walking back to her car, and she was turning it over around in her hand, and she happened to look down, and it hit her like a ton of bricks. In fact, she gasped. She even fell to her knees, and the man that was running the garage sale around says, are you okay? Are you okay? And she says, yes, but tell me, where did you get this bunny? And he said, oh, it was my mother-in-law's, and she had it for a long time. We liked it so much we never could imagine to throw it away, so it ended up here in the garage sale. She looked down, and on the foot of the bunny it said, Anita, 74. Her mom had taken up ceramics and had taken several classes and whatnot, and as they talked about it, they found out that her mom had made that bunny and given it to their next door neighbors, who happened to be this gentleman's in-laws all those years ago. This is what Darrell Lynn wrote. Finding this bunny felt as if Mom were comforting me from heaven. A sense of peace filled me, and I knew that no matter what happened, it was going to be okay. Today I'm going to talk about, continuing the talk on the divine feminine, and I'm going to talk about nurturing, and how nurturing doesn't have to be the province of the female gender, that males can nurture as well, and sometimes we're even nurtured from beyond the grave. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out on this warm Alaskan day. We're not only in the teens, we're in the 20s. It's kind of cloudy, but it's really nice out there, and thank all of you for coming out today. And it'd be easier to stay at home with all the virus and everything else going on. So thank you for being here. And thank you to the YouTube viewers as well. Thank you for watching the video. If you do have a cold or a flu, thank you for staying home and not sharing it with us. I think that our community of YouTube watchers is growing. In fact, last week I had 2 questions from our YouTube group, and all of you can just come up after service and talk to me and give me your opinions and thoughts and ask questions and whatnot, and that's great. But the people that are not here, that are watching on YouTube, don't get that chance. So it was good to get a few comments and questions from the YouTube group. And I would also like to remind those that are viewing on YouTube that if you go to our site, there is a button at the top that says support us, and there's an opportunity for you to participate in the law of circulation as well. So we would always appreciate any gifts, tithes, or offerings as well. So thank you to the YouTube group as well. The 3 points that I want to talk about today, well, my title is Nurturing is Strength. And I'm going to talk about unification, the second step of spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to talk about honoring women. And then lastly, I'll talk about nurturing. First of all, unification, the second step of affirmative prayer. I think I let everyone know last week that since there are 5 Sundays in March, I'm going to talk about one step of affirmative prayer each of the Sundays in March. And so it's the second Sunday, and we'll be talking about the second prayer, which is unification. The concept behind this is that we are one with each other, and we are one with God, Spirit, the divine, higher power, whatever term you choose to describe that infinite being, we are all one with that. And kind of the idea here is that that infinite creative force in the beginning, when that thing, whatever it is, made all of everything, the heavens, the earth, all of us, everything that ever was and ever will be, has been a product of this creative force. When it began, it had to start with something. It had to make this out of something. What was there to make it from? This is before the Big Bang. What could there have been? There was only one thing, and that is Spirit, God, the thing itself. Whatever that term is, that's all there was. So in order to make all of everything, it had to make it out of itself. Therefore, everything that's made is made of God stuff. It's made of the very creative force that made the heavens and earth. So you, my friend, are a child of the Most High. You are made of God stuff. And since we have a good idea that this force is infallible, it doesn't make mistakes, you are not a mistake. That infinite creative force didn't do everything perfectly except you. You are right there. And that's kind of the idea of the unification step in affirmative treatment. Last week we talked about recognition. That is recognizing that we have this all-powerful creative force. This week we recognize that we are one with that force. And all of the qualities that exist within that infinite creative force exist within us. Since we are all children of the Most High, the qualities that we desire are already within each of us, including the divine feminine. This kind of reminds me of a story. I don't know if it's true or not. It doesn't make any difference. The man, and I'm not talking about the gender man, I'm using the larger term mankind, the representative of mankind, one day was walking with that infinite creative force, and man said, you know, God, we've advanced so far, we've got this technology, and we've got, you know, science, and all of this going for us. I really don't think we have much need for God anymore. I said, really? Is that so? It's, yeah, you know, we can pretty much do everything. God says, well, do you think you could make man? I said, sure, we can make man. There's no problem with that. So God says, well, let's have a contest. Let's see who can build the most perfect man. And so mankind says, no problem, we can do that. And he reached down, he picked up a handful of dirt and said, God says, get your own dirt. And that's the idea. That dirt is God's stuff. And you are made of that perfect dirt. So get dirty. The next thing I want to do today is honoring women. And I thought, what's the best way to go to do that? And I decided, let's talk about the women in our movement. The women that really were the impetus to get us where we are here today in terms of this movement that's gone by a lot of different names, Science of Mind and Religious Science International and United Religious Science, and now we're Centers for Spiritual Living. All really came from women. Now, very often we talk about Quimby as being the father of New Thought. This is the guy that really kind of got the ball going. But Quimby went around healing people, not too much different than Jesus, based on certain principles. But all Quimby really did were a series of sideshows. He went from village to village curing people. He had a great following. People were thoroughly impressed with Quimby. But that's all he did. One of the people that he healed from a life-threatening disease was Mary Baker Eddy. It took Mary Baker Eddy to begin a teaching and to spread this philosophy. Now, her teaching evolved into Christian Science. But Mary Baker Eddy, female woman, is really the one that got this going. Now, she had a following, a student, Emma Curtis Hopkins, and Linda loves Emma Curtis Hopkins, who had a disagreement with Mary Baker Eddy, and they kind of went their separate ways. But Emma Curtis Hopkins went on to become known as the teacher of teachers. And some of the women that she advanced and taught in this teaching included Myrtle Fillmore, the Fillmores of Unity, Melinda Kramer, Nona Brooks of Divine Science, Annie Ricks Millix. She went on to teach many, many females. And I think that it's important that we do recognize the contribution that females have made to our movement. We would not be here today without their contributions. Second thing, today is International Women's Day. Yay. I found this, yes. And I'm going to abbreviate this, but International Women's Day. Sunday, March 8th is International Women's Day, a time to celebrate female achievement and support issues affecting girls and women of all kinds across the globe. It goes on to be a giving thing, but then it concludes, and I love this. Of course, you can also make a difference just by supporting the women in your life. If you need some ideas, this year's IWD, International Women's Day theme is #EachForEqual. #EachForEqual, which supports the idea that an equal world is an enabled world. We have a long way to go in terms of equality, but we can get there, and we will. I want you to mark your calendars, not next week, but the week after. We're talking all month about the divine feminine. And on that Sunday, we're going to have a guest speaker, and that's the 22nd, and for that we will have the divine feminist.
I want to know more.
You better show up in 2 weeks. Oh, it's going to be good. Okay, our third point, to nurture. According to the dictionary, to nurture is to care for and encourage the growth or development of someone or something. This divine feminine task can be accomplished by people of any gender. And it's like we talked about last week. The divine needs two genders in order to procreate the species, but I don't really think that infinite creative force cares too much about gender. It's not a big deal. And I think that part of our expression of who we are is just allowing that to be and not judging one way or the other, good, bad, or indifferent. It just simply is to let it go and let it be. Now, nurturing has usually been assigned to the role of a female as to woman, but it doesn't have to be that way. If we look around nature and see how various species interact, I was able to just locate, and I did this in 30 seconds, species where the male is the nurturer. Seahorses, penguins, flamingos, and surprisingly enough, our perhaps closest relative and the primate species, the primates, the gorilla. The male gorilla is the nurturer in their families. that nurturing can even come from a different dimension, like a ceramic bunny. An Army sergeant who, and I forgot the name of the base, but it is near Sparta, Wisconsin. And he had left the base, he was headed into town, and his car was new, it was a little over a year old, started making a noise, and he thought, oh, that's not right. And then he looked down and he saw that the temperature gauge was going up. It was getting hotter and hotter, and he thought, oh no. And then all of a sudden the battery light came on, and he decided he better pull over before he did any damage to his car. So he pulled over and called one of his fellow sergeants on base and said, oh, my car's acting weird, I don't know what's going on. So, you know, men being the rescuers and mechanic types, well, we'll come over and fix it. So his buddy and 3 more buddies jumped in their car and came up to rescue him and help him, and he was there sitting around looking at the car with the hood up, and I'm sure they had a lot of wisdom going on, and all of a sudden there's this screech of tires, and through the intersection came a car, and it smashed into a utility pole just a few feet from where they were, and it hit it so hard it erupted an electrical transformer, and the smoke filled the air, and the occupants of the car were trapped inside the car. But there were these 5 big, strong Army sergeants that were there that were able to break the windows and drag the occupants out. There was a David Turner and his 2 granddaughters were in there, and David Turner had a medical condition that caused him to pass out at the wheel, and surely would have killed David Turner. And those 2 beautiful granddaughters, had these 5 big, strong Army sergeants not been there to rescue them. This nurturing can come in many, many forms, and it can come through all kinds of different people, including 5 big, strong Army sergeants to be able to rescue this family. You think about the number of coincidences it took to put them there at that place at that time. How many times does a serpentine belt go out on a car with 16,000 miles on it? Why did he happen to pull into the parking lot of the Sparta mill and feed? All of these things conspired at the same time. And my point today is that when we align ourselves with that creative force, and we quit trying to tell it what to do, and we open up and we allow it to guide us, we can become powerful beyond measure. We can do things that we could never have dreamed of had we not had that divine push, that divine urge to get us to where we can and could be. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask my colleagues, the practitioners, to join me in nurturing our congregation, to join me in simply knowing that behind any earthly appearance, there is a higher truth, capital T truth, going on at every moment of time. That behind the appearance of lack and limitation, there is a spiritual truth that we live in a universe that is so abundant we can't even imagine it all. We can't even fathom the number of stars and galaxies in the heavens. We know that behind the appearance of dis-ease, that there is that within us that knows what it is supposed to do and knows what is perfect. That behind this disease, regardless of the disease, anything from a broken leg to the coronavirus, that within us is the power to heal. Within us is the power to make that which is perfect. And it is evident throughout the universe, from the macrocosm to the microcosm. It is true on the highest scale and the lowest scale. We know that that intelligence is within every molecule, within the very DNA of every living thing. We know that that power, that presence, that intelligence is within every molecule. It is within every atom within that molecule. And we now know that that intelligence is within every single subatomic particle. Every quark, every photon, every subatomic particle, every electron has an intelligence to it that knows, and it is that infinite intelligence that we call on to create that which is perfect within our lives. And we know that that very intelligence is also the very love of God. And we know that that love is within each and every one of us at every moment. And as we go through life, bumping into each other just like those atoms, and we interact and we go, that love is what guides us and guards us and protects us. That love is what allows us to communicate with one another, to love one another. And every situation is surrounded with that very love, the love of God. Every family relationship, every work relationship, romantic relationships, friendships are all God being God. And so we just give thanks. We give thanks for our awareness of the power and the presence of God. And so now we just step back, and with poise and confidence, we can let it go and let it be. And so it is.